exhaustion. And that's, because it's the days, Earthbound, Remains, Cyclone, and this one, which is in the heart of the country. They are bound materially. All of them are this exact pattern canvas. This stuff right here is in all 5 of them, including this one, of course. And I gotta tell you, this steel, this little scrapyard, it's heavy. It's really heavy. And when it's just nothing sitting there as his pipes, it's a lot. And honestly, my body can't take it anymore. So I get some help. But I didn't always do that. Also, when you get it up in the air like that, and some of my installations are taller, and I climb up in them, it gets dangerous. And that would be bad. I could fall. So I keep trying to take on my own these materials and get them to do what I want them to do. And if I keep doing that, that will kill me. It will kill me. And you'll see why. And that's important. Not so much the killing part, which is important, but it's the on my own part. And I will come back to that in a while. I noticed recently, actually last week, how tightly these 5 installations are linked conceptually. They're avatars. They're avatars for failure and regret, the days. Old age, which is the one that was at CAC, Earthbound. Death, which was the one that was up at Pyramid Hill, called Remains. Futility, which is one that I did last fall. It was called Cyclone. And this one, I really don't know what it's about yet. I had a plan for it when I put it in, but let's see. But clearly, it's something small and fragile in a very bad place. We know that. Okay, now go to your phone. The first 5 pictures on there are the days, which I installed at a small gallery at DAP last winter. It's about 14 feet long. It's lit from behind, and it confronted viewers with this ominous silhouette. And then there's this snake-like chain that invited them, or rather kind of dared them, to kind of slip along the sidewall to the other side. And I always felt that the days was about failure. It was just the embodiment of failure. It's not installed exactly the way I wanted. I wanted the light to be from the back and really, it's good to see you, Cal, thank you. Really, really bright. And I wanted it to be uncomfortable. I wanted people to squint. And I didn't get to do that. You know, I was sorry because it was failure, and I just wanted it to be painful. The next 5 are about Earthbound. And that one is also about 14 feet on its longest side. The first view there of Earthbound is a silhouette. And these are at my website, jamesmckennastudio.com, and in the navigation it's called Heart. But it wasn't hostile the way the days was. It's about aging gracefully, I guess, because it's kind of pretty. And at the time, I felt it was artful and sophisticated, and I felt that was a good thing. It was the high point of my, on my own, control the whole thing, but that turned out to be a bad direction. The harder and harder I tried to continue that process, the worse things got, fast. The next one is Remains. There are 5 images. That's the one at Pyramid Hill. And the central pole in there is 16 feet high. I built it on my own. I brought everything up in my little Honda. I made it in pieces so I could do that. And to get the canvas up there high, I climbed up on that with nobody else around. I had to trust my welds, which are not all that great. I had to trust the stakes that I put in the ground to hold the chains. And I was up there, and I realized that Remains became kind of real to me at that point. And then I thought about doing it again, like getting people to come up there and doing it again as kind of an icky performance that would implicate people in being there for a possible bad event. That's kind of where I was at the time. And Ha Zhang, who's faculty at DAP, she told me, this is going to kill you and you need to stop doing it. You need to get other people to help you. And I listened to her, and that was good. But I still didn't listen entirely. The next 4 pictures are Cyclone, which is last fall. And this went up and came down in one day. That whole thing went up and came down in one day. It's all of this steel, plus some more of this steel. It's about 12 feet high, I think. And it was incredibly overambitious. There is no possible way I could have done that in a single day, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. I had some people there helping me, and eventually they were all like, we gotta go. Like, you remember. It was like, we gotta go. I'm really sorry, but we don't have time. And that's true. I mean, they had given everything they had. And I was very, very thankful for that. So I was still going because, you know, it's like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna make this happen. And I didn't make it happen. I was up there, like climbing up in it. I was on a ladder. And again, it could have gone badly. I could have fallen on concrete with steel coming down on me. It didn't happen, fortunately. Dennis Barry, director of the Weston Gallery, came by, and he told me, it's interesting. And I thought to myself, fuck, how can this get any worse? You know, interesting is a damning comment. It could have gotten worse. I could have fallen. As I said, that would have been the end. The first two that I just talked about, The Days and Earthbound, I thought at the time they were things I had made, but, you know, not things that make me. But then I started to see Remains nearly killed me when I didn't listen. Cyclone reiterated that point. Not listening is kind of a theme in my life, but a turn of events kind of changed how that works. Friday, about a week and a half ago, I arrived here in the morning with all this stuff in a rented truck, and a former student of mine, Adriana, was here. She helped me carry it in and to get started. And then Paige, the director of the gallery, came up to me and she said, the plan has changed. You won't be able to do this until mid-afternoon. And I'm like, okay. I now have to fit 10 hours of work into 5 hours. So Adriana went off, she did her stuff, and I was like trying to figure that out. And it wasn't anybody's fault, it just kind of fell out that way. So the time finally came, 2 other students arrived, and Erin and Bree, and we started laying things out. And the new plan was a lot simpler. I could have done it on my own, but that was not a good idea. So, but they were there, 3 really able and talented young women I had had in class the semester before. I knew that they were sharp people. And so I didn't have much to give them. So what I did is I pieced out the work, and I was like all over it and everything, and it was just getting bad. I was like all anxious, and they were like frustrated, and it's like, okay, we're not gonna do this. And I stepped back and I said, here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna collaborate. Everyone's gonna have a say. Everyone is gonna make their own decisions as they go. We will step back now and then and assess, and consensus is important. So I didn't do all of this. In fact, the canvas is really not my work. It was done by the 3 women who helped me. Not helped me. Their names are on the card. They're in this. They're part of it. It's partly theirs. So it was my installation, and it was my art, and my name was on it. And this was really hard for me to let go of that. Because remember, I had risked death to retain control on a couple other installations. I risked that rather than trust other people to be a part of it. So this was very hard for me, standing here in this gallery, late in the day, just letting people in. It was really good. Their names are on the card. That is important. I felt like this was a fixed point now in my practice. I have to let people in. So there's other people involved here too. As much as possible, I use discarded stuff I find on the ground. This is from a scrapyard. This is not. I ordered this from Amazon. It didn't come like this. I did a lot of work to it. It never sat right that I got it from Amazon. I bought it new because everything else is not that way. It's kind of in a sense mine because, you know, whose else is it? Scrap. But there's a process by which I got these things to be this way. First I tore off the edges, and then I washed them in an industrial washer to get them frayed and to take out the sides and make them kind of floppy. I had this woman who's a seamstress, a Ukrainian woman. She sewed them together into these very, very long sheets of canvas. And then I dyed them with walnuts that I got from my yard in a garbage can, and that's how they got the color. And then I dragged them around my yard for a while, and then I let them out to dry. So that's how they came to be the way they are. But I couldn't escape the fact that they weren't really mine. I owned them because I paid money for them, but really, they belong to the people who worked them who did them. Someone grew that cotton, someone picked it, someone ginned it, someone spun it, loomed it, cut it, sewed it, packed it, shipped it, shelved it, delivered it. All these people did all these things to this canvas, and then it came to me in a neat little bag, and I pulled it out. It really kind of belongs to them. These people also are in this. I'll never meet them. There are artists who do that. They like track down the people who are responsible for all their materials. I respect that a lot. They have budget, they do grants, and I don't have that. I don't do grants. But yeah, hand to hand, I got a brand new tarp, a lot of them, with a long history. And knowing that the people who made this matters to me feels like another fixed point. Knowing where my materials came from, respecting that, those people are part of this as well. That's important. And I want to talk about mention a few other people. At the bottom of the page there I sent you to, Dalla Nasser, Dwayne Linklater, Aaron Wiersma, and Richard Long. And these are artists, especially Richard Long, quite famous. The others are kind of coming up. Their work is very important to me, especially right now. I really like Aaron Wiersma. I think if you go to look at that, you will see what's going on there. Also, Marin Agarwal, who some of you know, she's faculty at DAP. She was very formative in me getting here. I came to DAP doing something completely different. Now I do things like this. Marin was instrumental in getting me there. So shout out to Marin. So this theme is emerging of people letting people into my practice, and you don't know me, but admitting that is a laugh and a half, because only the people who know me can appreciate the irony that I would admit dependence on other people. That's not something that comes easily to me. This little table off to the side here, I made that a bunch of years ago. The last picture on your phone will show that it was in the first state of this. It was right here with this bowl on it. It was the ash piled up and it's on it. And honestly, it was a better composition. It kind of stood here and all kind of went together very nicely, but it was a lie, because it was way too much me. It was just way too much me. So I came back a few days later. The bowl had like memory things that reminded me of people who loved me, that kind of thing. All that went. The table went, and I have it thrown out here, which I think is kind of valuable. And what I did is I put sugar in there, this sugar that I got out of the cupboard, and some rocks that I got out of my driveway. And that felt kind of like love to me. You know, it's like love is a bitch, and sometimes it's nice, a lot of times it's not. But when we talk about where things come from, well, the stones came from my driveway. So kind of I can own those. I mean, they came from a gravel yard, they came from da-da-da-da-da. But sugar, some of you, I'm sure, know about Kara Walker's installation at the Domino Sugar Factory in Brooklyn several years ago. Sugar does not belong to white people. It does not belong to white people. So it's not right that it's here. It's wrong. I did the best I could. Now, maybe though it's right in a way I don't understand, because maybe the theft is important here. Maybe blood is important here. I don't know. The title has heart in it twice, which is kind of about blood. I don't know. I wasn't born in Ohio. I was brought here when I was about 5. And that's where I want to kind of end. It's with the title. I never felt like Ohio is my home, though at this point, I'm not young anymore. Ohio is my home. It's provincial like nobody else's business. It's just like Ohio is the provinces, there's no doubt about it. It's the heart of the country. And it meant this piece to be about love, and for me, love is tied to place. So this love is in the heart of the country. And when I dreamed this piece, when I took part in putting it together, that's what I was doing. I was building it about love. And I still feel like that's not far from the truth. But you may see it differently, and that's fine, because it's out now. I've let it out, I let it go, and now, if you want it, it belongs to you. If anybody is interested, I will answer whatever questions you have.
Guys, anyone?
So, with all the people you say helped you make this piece, how much of this work do you consider your own?
It's my concept. I thought it up. But as I was saying toward the end here, I'm not kind of sure what it is anymore. I did, well, no, actually the three women who were here helped me put the structure together, and that was when it started to be us together. We were kind of working on this, and I wanted to go here, and people would say, well, and, you know, not really, we need to do this, and then that was shortly before we stepped back, and I just said, okay, guys, you know, you all take that part, you take that part, and we're just going to see what we get. And shortly after that, everybody was hungry, and so I drove off for like an hour and got pizza. And I came back here, and it was done. And it was a little different. This part right here was kind of up in the back. There was a big hole in it. And I looked at the whole thing, and I thought, holy shit. I could not have done that. I would have done something different, but I could not have done this. And I think this is splendid. It just says it. It does it. And then the piece in the back fell down, and they were like, well, you know, should we fix that? Or it's like, well, no. Let's talk about this, and you know, we decided, no, it does not need to be up. It needs to be down. It needs to be wreckier. You know, so it's a wreck. So I'd say, I don't want to put percentages in it. I mean, part of the reason I owned a lot of it was because I hadn't yet come to the realization that I need to not own it all. But this particular one was kind of a shift, kind of a tipping point. The next thing I do, I don't know how much I'm going to own. I might kind of be there. I might let people in on the concept. I just don't know. It's very scary for me. It's very scary, but I believe it has to be that way. Yes,
James,
Gary?
in my experiences with installation art, especially viewer interactive works, there is always a tug of war between explaining to the viewer how they should relate to a particular piece or relying on unstated cues. Here, you mostly allow us an unstated cue, although there is a little bit of a piece of signage on how do you walk that line. And then secondly, do you start your concepts with drawings or with writing, and how do you build form out of that?
Okay, the first part, tell me the first part again.
Viewer interactivity and
Okay.
non-direct cues.
When it first went up here, there was a miscommunication between Paige and me, and it just said, you know, installation by James McKenna. And I'm like, there's no context, you know? I think we need some context. So it's like way overdetermined now. There's so much on there. I don't think that's right. It needed to have context, which is kind of how I tried to do it today. Beyond that, I believe very firmly, it's absolute, that once it's out, it's out. It's not mine anymore. And that's why I ended with that. It belongs to you. And like, whatever you want of it, make of it what you will. I tried very hard to make it be what I wanted it to be. I realize now that, I don't know. I don't know if I did that. They kind of take control. The other part was...
How do you start your process?
How do I start? I dream them, in a sense. They just kind of float in. And I do usually do some drawings, not always. This one I couldn't like build at any place before, so that kind of hampered me there. I drew it, I had it really clearly in mind. And that's, at this point, I think this is typically going to be how it is. I will draw it. I don't have space anymore. I was a DAP, I had space. I don't have space anymore to build things. So I have to kind of go in and hope it works out. And especially now, since I will be involving people more, it's going to be, I was going to say crapshoot, not a crapshoot at all. It will be a collaboration and something that I can't imagine beforehand what will be.
I guess I'd like to ask my class a question if I could. Typically when we do our crits, I ask you, when analyzing a work of art, to ask yourself two questions. What do you think is being shown? How do you think it's being shown? And I'm wondering, even though James kind of told us a little bit about it, there's still some cryptic sort of nature to this. And I'm wondering what your observations are and how you would begin to analyze it. What is being shown, do you think?
Very vulnerable.
I'm sorry.
It's very vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Ah, good.
Yeah.
What is there anything that evokes vulnerability mostly to you?
I feel it in the face of all the chaos. In the middle there's something that can be broken, but it's lit in the way that, you know, it's there, it's showing itself, it's opening itself up to you, and that's really beautiful to me because, and I know that you taught us some stuff, but, you know, it kind of aligns with the piece of opening up to people and the beauty of the vulnerability, so that's kind of how it feels to me.
I feel the vulnerability through the materials itself. Like, yes, they're processed to an extent, like the chains and the canvas, but usually they would go on to have more life and be created into more things. But I think what you were saying, you can really feel the chaos there.
That's right, we've got that contrast, right, between the hard steel pipes and the soft flowing fabric, right? So there's a sense of contrast. There's a sense of space that the artist has created for perhaps a viewer to interact. Sorry.
No,
You're on.
please. I was hoping that people would come and you know, use it to teach. It would be great.
Is there anything you typically associate with this kind of form? This vertical linear form with this draped canvas on it? Is there something that it conjures to your memory, or?
It's kind of reminiscent of a tent or like a camp, maybe that was
Yeah.
like worn down. Sort of.
I think of like when you're going through like someone's attic and everything's covered in like sheets.
It makes me think of religious art, but you know, Catholic recovering, that the triangular compositions and the folds of cloth, and you know, that really you have that triangular composition in totality that you can walk into and experience. Or like some of the religious art with relics and you know, things that we're supposed to interact with in some way, or our religious figures will. But then you have all these other triangular compositions leading to the whole. Same
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I see ritual, and certainly there's some symbolically charged materials like ash, right, which we associate with many things: mortality and consumption. Ritual. I come from that Catholic background as well, so I see ritual in that. I also see a little bit of like sort of maritime language with the ship's masts and like antique vessels or something like that.
Did you want to add in?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the composition reminds me of death, because you have all of these aged materials that are standing upright, but then in the center you have something that's pure, that's not touched. You have, which is love. So in the surrounding decay and chaos, you have that one piece, and it's all the things in the middle are all natural materials. It's ash and stoneware and rocks and sugar.
It's true.
In the face of artificiality.
It is, yeah. That's interesting.
Can I challenge this a little bit and ask you to reflect upon that idea that you touched on very briefly about the history of sugar and colonialism, and our history in this region of the country specifically with not only slavery, but then setting up structures of race for the 100 years after that.
Yeah.
And then the idea that we are in a gallery setting right now, and that we do not necessarily have a ton of minority representation,
Right.
to view this artwork. Can you reflect a little bit about that kind of challenging idea in
Yes.
installation work?
I'm glad you asked that question, because that is heavy on my mind. Sugar is like a Caribbean thing, but certainly slavery. Making of sugar was brutal. I'm not sure it's much better right now, but at least people are paid. So that was kind of the way I was saying it doesn't belong to white people. I don't think there are any white people involved in that. So putting sugar in here, I thought of getting local honey. I thought maybe that would be a better way to go. I can't say why I didn't do that. I think I don't like mess. sticky. I don't know, but also it was easy. I didn't have to hunt for it. It was like, because I knew right now I need to get this fucking thing in here. So that is how it came to be there. What the colonialism that occurred to me first was in here, because it was nominally from China. I suspect that the cotton was probably Thailand, something like that. I don't know. Brown people, all brown people, who I'm sure were not paid very well, whose lives are not all that great in comparison with mine. That was why I was so ambivalent, not even ambivalent, I just kind of felt ashamed about it. And maybe part of why I worked on it so hard, trying to own it. But in the end, I just had to let those people in. And, how nice for me that I can simply, let them in. It's kind of like, what is it? When people put up statements like, this is such and such Native American land. It's like, okay, you're gonna tear down the building? You can give them money, what are you gonna do? It's all white guilt, as far as I can tell. I don't know what to do about that. I have no freaking idea what to do about that.
Maybe
I don't know.
reflecting on it in artwork is part of the process.
It is,
Yeah.
but we stand here, we're all comfortable, we just ate lunch, on a pretty nice day. No matter how rough our day is, it's probably gonna be nicer than the lunch. So that's my thinking on it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Since you raised your question, I think you were one of the first people to ask about how James feels about his own involvement in creating this installation. I've been thinking on, I once met Cincinnati, Ohio artist Pam Kravitz, who does a lot of installation work. And there were two pieces of wisdom that she imparted to me and the people that she was talking with that I've never forgotten. And the first one is that nobody makes it alone. So, even if you do have kind of a solitary practice, sharing it with other people, having a good time doing critiques and asking for feedback often and collaborating with people could only enhance your experience as an artist or a designer. So that was the first thing I remember that Pam said was nobody makes it alone.
Right. Yeah.
And that's true no matter what your practice is. And the other one was always land the ship. And I think James has always landed the ship. You've always come up with a plan and endured very, very well all the challenges that come along with that plan, the physical challenges, the more imaginative challenges. How do we take this thing out of your mind and make it something physical that can be shared with other people?
Thank you.
So,
that's, you heard me say a lot. Yeah, Charles is in the class ahead of me at DAP, right? I like to win. I really like to win. And that was part of why I was, me on a lot of these jobs. And that was like that one up at Pyramid Hill. Fucking thing. I was gonna do it, I did it, and I made it in pieces. I put it in my freaking Honda, and I took it up there, and I built that, and I climbed up in it, and I put it all together. And you know what? And it almost killed me, because I was standing up there, and honestly, my welds are not that great. It could have happened. It could. And then, like I said, you were in that class, the Haas installation class.
No.
I was like, I'm gonna do it in front of you guys. That's like, that was so cruel. That was so bad. I was like, you're not gonna do that. And that was a turning point. It's like, yeah, you're right. Killing myself for art is really not the way to go.
And well, why don't I leave it with that? You know me, I could talk all day about everything.
We talk for hours.
Yeah. Really, it's a tall order to try to extract everything that a work of art has to offer in such a finite amount of time. 20 minutes isn't nearly enough. Spending time 45 minutes to a few hours is just like the first step at really getting in touch with what an artwork might have to offer. All these objects are kind of philosophical transmitters. There's much more contained that is waiting to be transmitted.
Yeah, I know you spend time, like you pick out one object in a gallery, you will stand there with that object. And
Yeah.
You told me that's how you operate.
I like to make use of the benches, you know, those are
Mhm.
for people that are ready to kind of hang out there all day.
Yeah, that's good. How about Zizek?
Pardon
You
me?
gonna lay some Zizek on us?
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding. Theory,
Oh my
I have more
gosh.
theory.
Can you imagine sitting down with Zizek and looking at some paintings?
Oh
Can you
my
imagine
God.
how that would be?
You've seen the Pervert's Guide to Cinema.
There's a thing online. It's Zizek and Herzog. You know, it's just like an endless conversation between Zizek and Herzog, and it's an AI done thing, which just pulls them together. And I listened to it for about an hour one time. And it's like it was quite enlightening, you know, because these guys really do have things to say to each other. But it's nonsense, man.
I mean, I usually show my students The Burden of Dreams, Les Blank's film of Werner Herzog filming Fitzcarraldo, right? Where they're dragging a boat through the hill. So, I mean, suffering for your art. I mean, we were talking about Max's cardboard piece, transporting it on the way here. If you're making something of a certain dimension, you have to deal with it. You're the maker, right? No matter what that is.
Right.
And, you know, we can't, you know, we have to own that, which is
Yeah.
a good thing in a way. But another aspect that you bring in, both with the community and with the way this is organized, is the sense of theatricality, right? We talked about that in installation art, right? There's viewer interaction, theatricality, right? Site specificity. There's a lot of what James is drawing in here of the history and the trajectory of installation art that we've covered already. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's a whole lot. Like, I weld this shit on here. I went and got these. And I do all this shit myself, and it's like it's so stupid. It's so stupid because, yeah, I could do it, and I as Charles was saying, you know, I make it happen. It's like whatever, it's gonna get done. It does get done, but I don't know. It's really freaking scary. I don't know what's gonna come out of this. I really don't know.
we're bringing in a visiting artist, Julie Schenkelberg, who you might know.
No.
She's from Cleveland. She's an installation artist. She's really quite reaching a lot of prominence now, and she's going to be our visiting guest speaker this semester. So
Okay.
It'll be in March 25th.
Okay, great.
We'll send out notes through Brad.
Okay, great. I'll be looking for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for telling me.